Welcome to the Training Center. Today we're going to talk about entering and exiting large vehicles and maintaining 3 points of contact. Every day all over the country, employees slip while entering and especially when exiting their vehicles. Many of these slips have led to lost time injuries. In fact, more than a quarter of all injuries to equipment operators and truck drivers occur while entering and exiting the vehicle. Upon completion of this lesson, you should be able to identify the most common cause of slip injuries, explain how to enter and exit a large vehicle, and explain why we maintain 3 points of contact. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration sets rules and guidelines for commercial motor vehicles in the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Regulations. In it, they require manufacturers to make provisions for drivers to get into and out of the vehicle safely. They must give you proper handholds and proper steps. The federal government is looking out for you by providing you with safe equipment, but that means that you have to follow the rules by getting in and out of the vehicles properly. The single most common cause of falls from a vehicle is driver error and failure to follow the 3-point rule. The purpose of this lesson is to explain the 3-point rule with a special emphasis on why it is used. The 3-point rule has 3 major parts. First, you always maintain 3 points of contact. This means that you have 2 hands and 1 foot, or, as in the case of this picture, 2 feet and 1 hand in contact with a stable device. Second, you always face the vehicle. Think about when you're walking up and down a ladder. Generally, you face toward the ladder, not away from it. As we will show shortly, this positioning is much more natural for your body and is less likely to cause injury. The third rule is that you should have nothing in your hands. One of the assumptions of the 3-point rule is that you're always using 3 limbs to hold on to your current position, while your 4th limb is moving to the next position. This is impossible to maintain if you're holding something in your hand while trying to climb in and out of the vehicle. Now here's an example of an employee using the proper technique for entering and exiting the vehicle. Notice that as he enters and exits the vehicle, he always maintains contact with either 1 foot and 2 hands or 1 hand and 2 feet. Also notice that he has nothing in his hands to disrupt his handholds. One more thing that you might notice is that the technique for exiting the vehicle looks just like the technique for entering the vehicle played backwards. This is generally how it should look. In fact, if you have trouble figuring out the technique for maintaining 3 points of contact while exiting your vehicle, a good trick is to video record yourself or another employee entering the vehicle and then play the video recording backwards. So now that we know what we mean by the 3-point rule, let's talk about why it works. First, it provides redundancy. If you have only 1 point of contact, you are in an unstable and unsafe position. The person hanging by 1 hand, or in this case, balancing by 1 foot, could fall at any moment. If you have 2 points of contact, you're stable, but you have no redundancy. So if either of your 2 points of contact slip, you'll find yourself in a dangerous and unstable position. But if you maintain 3 points of contact, you are stable and the redundancy of the 3rd point makes you safe. Now we've talked about maintaining 3 points of contact, but why do we have to face the vehicle when entering and exiting the vehicle? The most natural motions for your limbs are shown on the picture on the left. The hips and the arms swing forward, and the knees bend to the rear to allow your feet to be flat on the ground. Now unless you're a contortionist, your arms and legs don't easily bend the way they're shown in the picture on the right. If your movements place you in the awkward position on the right, your chances of getting injured increase dramatically. Now let's look at a similar body position with a small amount of weight applied. Think of the position of a weightlifter performing squats. The form that they maintain is very similar to the picture on the left. The lifter has good posture, his feet are flat on the ground, and several large muscle groups are working together to perform the lift. Now imagine trying to stand with the weight on your shoulders but starting from the position on the right. Most of us wouldn't be able to do it. In fact, if a squatting weightlifter finds him or herself in the position on the right, then something has probably gone horribly wrong. Now that we've seen those, let's look at the body mechanics of a person stepping down from a vehicle. On the picture on the left, you can see more muscle groups working together to supply support. These are large muscle groups too. These are the muscles that normally bear the load when you're climbing upward, so your body's used to it. Now in the picture on the right, only the quad muscles and the front deltoids are supporting the weight. These are small muscle groups. The quads are a large muscle group, and they don't have the support of the glutes in the back of the thigh like you have over here. Further, the arms are in an awkward position behind you, and you're placing an unusual strain on the shoulder joints. So let's look back at the previous slide for a moment. Which of the 2 positions looks like the proper squat technique from the previous slide? Here's the proper squat technique. Which of these 2 looks more like it? Clearly the one on the left looks like the proper technique, while the one on the right looks like the improper technique. Now let's look at it from a different perspective. What if your bottom foot slips off while you're stepping down? If you're the person on the left, your top foot will be flat on the upper step, and you'll have several large muscle groups working together to hold you up. As we said before, these are the same muscle groups that you use when you're climbing, so while there will be additional pressure, it'll be similar to the pressure you've felt before. Now if you're the person on the right, you're going to be in big trouble. Your upper foot is not flat on the step, and in fact it can't go flat against the step in this position. Your quad right here is going to try to take all of that weight, and it's going to place an enormous strain on the front quad muscle and on the knee joint. When it fails to take that weight, you're going to be left with a choice. You can either let go of what you're holding on to with your hands and fall to the ground, or you can have your hands wrenched back and look like this guy. To be clear, stepping down like this is no better than jumping. In addition to facing a violent stop at the bottom, you face several potential strains on the way down. The bottom line is that if you need to catch yourself on a slip, then you want to be in the best position for recovery. You want to be in the position on the left. So now that we've talked about the 3-point rule and why it's important, let's look at a few examples. Now in each of these examples, I'll pause the video to let you think about it before moving on. Now do you see anything wrong with what the employee is doing in this picture? Actually, this employee is doing everything properly. He's facing the vehicle, he's maintaining 3 points of contact, and he has nothing in his hands. Do you see anything wrong with what this employee is doing? Now there are several problems here. First, and most obvious, the employee is facing outward. Second, the bottom foot is just setting down on the ground, but the left hand isn't holding on to anything. So it's likely that the employee did not have 3 points of contact just prior to touching the ground. Now this is especially important here because if you look down here and you look over here, you'll see there is snow and a wet ground. This increases the likelihood of the steps being wet and also increases the chance of a slip. This employee is very lucky that a slip did not occur given his position and the road conditions. Now, do you see anything wrong here? While it may seem like he's applying proper technique at a glance, we can see that the employee has his coffee cup in his left hand. Rather than grabbing the handhold, he's leaning onto the door. This does not provide any support and would not help him if one of his feet slipped. The best thing to do in this situation is place the coffee cup in the vehicle before stepping in. If the employee is stepping out, he can place it on the floor before exiting and then grab it once he's safely on the ground. Do you see anything wrong here? In this case, the employee is setting himself up for failure. While he has 3 points of contact and has nothing in his hands, he's facing away from the vehicle. The bottom line is that your choice to use the proper technique is made as soon as the door is opened. This is the exact second where the employee has made the decision to perform an unsafe act. Now looking at this picture, we see that the employee appears to be doing everything right. The question is he entering or exiting the vehicle? In reality, there's no way to tell from a still image whether he's entering or exiting the vehicle. If he's using the proper technique, his exit should look exactly like his entrance, played backwards. Now in this lesson we discussed the most common cause of slip injuries, how to enter and exit a large vehicle, and why we maintain 3 points of contact. If you have any questions, please contact the Training Center for further assistance. Thank you for your time and have a safe day.